Hello, how are you? First of all, Howard, thanks for having me here today. Your staff has been excellent. This is Brian Ross, Brian Fisher, as you know. I'd also like to say that Dan Shelton is included in this group. These guys have become like brothers to me. They're part of my family. We consider them family. I'm going to walk through a couple of things with you. I was honored to sit here today and hear about what each of you are accomplishing. I own a business, so I have goals, and you guys are definitely getting me motivated. Last night when I was in the bar, I met a woman from Texas. I can't remember her name, and I'm sorry. But she said to me, "Oh, how long have you been with Family Heritage?" And I'm like, I'm not really with the company. She's like, "Oh, okay." Then she looked at me and she said, so what are you doing here? And then she goes, "Are you a policy holder?" And I said, "Yeah." And she's like, "Are you one of the people that's going to be?" I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Oh, the people last year, they made us cry." And I said, "Well, we are not going to cry today, okay? I am not here to cry with you. I am here to inspire you. I am here to tell you my story, and then I'd like to see what you guys are going to do in 2018. Got it? If you don't perform, the people that we lose, we don't honor them. We don't honor your policy holders. And your policies make our lives easier. And I remember 10 months before Kevin got diagnosed, we got the policy. 10 months, that's it, okay? So understand that time is of the essence. When he got diagnosed, we had one brain surgery in Orlando. We then traveled. So for those of you that know your policy, write down a number for that, okay? And as I go through the journey, you're going to start to add up those numbers, okay? One brain surgery here in Orlando. We then went to Johns Hopkins. The reason that we went to Johns Hopkins was we wanted to be closer to family. So think of the travel and living expenses that we incurred. I can tell you it was $4,500 a month, and we spent 5 months in Baltimore. We had a home here. We had jobs here. Got it? We then went to Johns Hopkins to become enrolled in what was a lymphocyte replacement, which is a clinical treatment trial. Understand for your policyholders, clinical treatment, clinical drug trials, they are our hope for our family members to survive cancer. That's where we hang our hat. So we went there to be the one candidate that would be involved in a treatment trial, okay? There's a difference between drug and treatment. It was $1 million for Johns Hopkins to enroll one candidate. We wanted to be that candidate. What they do is they take out the antibodies of the blood and they harvest them until you're through chemotherapy. And then they replace them back into the immune system to help fight off what chemotherapy basically depletes. When we got to Johns Hopkins, Mr. Henry Brim, look him up, he's a world-renowned cancer scientist, he said, "I'm sorry, but you will not be the candidate." And we said, "Well, why?" And he said, "Because the hospital has decided that you live too far away and you can't afford the travel and living expenses to be coming back and forth and being in Baltimore for so long. You'll have to stay an additional 6 weeks." And I said, "Well, first of all, we can afford it. We were in the prime of our careers, but we have cancer insurance." And he said, "Cancer insurance? What is that?" And I said, "Well, let me tell you." And I pulled out the policy and I handed it to him. And he goes, "Okay, well, we'll think about it." The next day they called us and we were in fact the candidate that was selected. So you have to understand, that the policies that you sell impact the lives of families all over the country. They impact their hope, and that's what you do every day. So we then returned back to Orlando, of which we had a second brain surgery, unfortunately, which was followed by, keep taking those notes on those numbers, which was then followed by 21 days in step down and I believe 14 in ICU. So add those numbers up. The closure was 59 long days in home hospice. Add those numbers up. So in January of 2014, Kevin did pass away. And at the remain of his life, he asked me to go out and advocate for patients and families all across the country, which I do. Brian has helped me on multiple occasions, and has Brian Ross. What I need for you to do is to make a commitment, and the commitment is this: to the lives and families across this country. The NIH just released a statistic that 1 in 2 people will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. And what we also need to understand is that we're living with cancer longer. So that's where your policies really come into play. Because as people live longer, they can utilize the policy and they can beat it. People say to me, how did you get through this? And I think, I honestly, I can't really tell you. But what I do know is that one of the days that I was in ICU, I went to the bathroom and I called a friend of mine who has lost her uncle, her aunt, her mom, her dad to cancer. And I said, how in the hell am I gonna get through this? And she said, here's how. You're gonna come up with a plan. Because if we have a plan, then you can't fall apart, and we can't have you fall apart. So what I'd like to do today is give you an analogy for all of you here to have a plan for how you're gonna impact the lives of families and individuals across the country, not just in cancer, but in all of your policies, because I got reminded of your portfolio today. And what I'd like to do is this plan is going to give you double digits in 2018, as Ken asked you to do. Because I'm a business owner, and quite frankly, I want double digits, okay? I don't settle for single, so neither should you. When you run a business, you have to identify a need. You have a need. You have families that need your policies. The need is there. Now we need the commitment. And then, as Ron said, the conviction, because that's where you perform and find your passion. So what got me through the 4 years is this. I walked out of that house on the day that he died, January 28th, and I said, okay, here's what I'm gonna do. For every year, the next 4 years of my life, 4 years, which is almost coming to a close, my first year will be my winter. And that's where I'm just gonna cut and prune myself back and identify my deficiencies. And I'm gonna think about how can I get these plants to grow and how can I get my life back where I want it to be. That was year 1, cutting myself back and pruning so that I could plant my seeds in the spring, which was year 2. Not just where can I plant my seeds to grow, but who can I plant my seeds with? So in your spring, get involved in philanthropical efforts. Reach out to charities in your hometowns, in your community. Then you'll move into your summer, where your life will become colorful again, and you will start to see the benefits of where and with whom you planted your seeds with. And then will be your harvest. And that's where you will reap what you have sown, and you have the ability to sow a lot. In closing, I give you a scripture that's really carried me through these 4 years and realize I'm in my harvest, and I can't wait to see you in your harvest in December of 2018. Somebody better call me and say, guess what? We got double digits, because that's what you need to achieve. In Galatians, it says, let us not grow weary in doing good, for in time we will reap a harvest. I need to see your harvest. It's out there. You have to plant your seeds. And I promise you, if you really dig deep, you get your conviction in line, you can do it. It's not hard. Thanks so much.